topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Atlanta. I should say now, good morning, Georgia, because we are getting so much mail from the state of Georgia and actually surrounding areas. One of the things we try to do on this show is we always ask you for input to the shows. For about the last 3 months, we have gotten so many letters, so many text messages, people wanting to know how come we don't have a workers' comp expert. And first of all, it's hard to find the right firm. That's first. And second of all, we've had no openings. Normally our experts never leave, but we have been blessed enough to find, I can say this, one of the finest workers' comp attorneys in the state of Georgia. And let's welcome, so we do listen to you, let's welcome Attorney Nathaniel Hansford. Good morning, Attorney.
Good morning. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, we are so lucky we actually have a friend of yours on our show who's with us twice a week or twice a month. And he said, Nathaniel is one of the finest workers' comp attorneys. So I am so excited about this show because there's so many questions that people have, and we just started promoting your show. Before we get started, today's show is brought to you by Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta, who specialize in selling your business. Contact them today to set an appointment by calling Sunbelt Business Brokers Atlanta, 770-936-9099. So can we call you Nate? Is that okay to do?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's what
okay.
People call me.
So first of all, tell us about yourself and your firm, because there's a lot of people who have never used your firm before.
Sure. Yeah, Steve. We are workers' compensation specialists. So that's all we do is we handle work accidents throughout the state of Georgia, as well as I'm licensed in Alabama. So we handle cases in Alabama as well. We've been doing this I've been practicing just workers' compensation law for almost 20 years. The firm is about 15 employees. We have 4 other attorneys and multiple bilingual employees. So we handle both Spanish and English speaking cases, but we handle usually primarily, bad injury, workers' comp cases where folks are out of work, had a surgery, serious injuries. We're here to help, whatever we can do to support them, fight for their rights, get their benefits, whether it be income benefits, medical care, prescriptions paid, transportation, those kind of benefits under the law. Each state is different. Georgia has a pretty good workers' compensation system. I know Florida is different. Alabama is different. It's all legislatively created, and there are certain entitlements, and it can be confusing. It can be complex. When you get hurt on the job, a lot of folks don't know what to do, what the policies are, because a lot of times the employer doesn't provide any information or doesn't explain to them that there's a list of doctors, a pink sheet of paper on the bulletin board, usually in the break room, who they can select to treat with if they get hurt on the job. That's called the panel of physicians. So a lot of times there's no information provided, no procedures, no policies with the employer, and therefore the client's kind of left out in the cold. And usually that's when they give us a call.
Nate, we got about 12 text messages when we started promoting your show last week. And I would say probably 75% of them are people that are afraid, to go after the insurance companies, to hire an attorney. A lot of them seemed afraid to do this, thinking there might be repercussions.
Right. Now that's a good question and a good point. I get that every day, it seems like. And what I tell folks is it's kind of complex, the situation. When you get injured, we're dealing with the insurance company. So we're not dealing with their employer per se. We're not filing a lawsuit right off the bat unless they don't provide, the insurance company doesn't provide the benefits that the law allows for my clients. And Georgia's at will employment, so they will not be terminated if they hire an attorney. And the injured worker also needs to look out for themselves. Like if they have a permanent injury, they need to have somebody fighting for their rights and making sure that they get all their benefits, because the last thing they want to do is continue working and then get terminated, and then they don't file a claim and they can't pay their bills and they're out of work and they don't have entitlement to a workers' comp case. So there are a lot of steps and processes that they need to go through, but it can be confusing and complex and frustrating, and that's why it's good to have an attorney like us that can reach out to. We can answer those questions and get them on the right path.
I can't tell you how many people have called our shows in other markets that said they tried to handle this themselves, thinking they were going to save some money.
Right.
And we're going to talk about why you don't have to do that, because the way your fees are structured, and it's amazing. People will say, I lost so much, because these insurance companies, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're not your friend.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good point as well. Basically, if someone hires us, they're not having to pay anything out of pocket. We would get 25% of any type of settlement down the road, but there's no risk really involved for an injured worker to hire us. And like you said, the longer the injured worker delays, the less rights they're going to have. The insurance company is going to point the finger at them and say, well, you must not have been that hurt if you didn't hire an attorney, you didn't file a claim, and if they don't file the claim or report the claim within the year, then the statute of limitations will run in Georgia, and therefore they will lose all entitlement to benefits. And we see that a lot of times where an injured worker might file for short-term disability benefits instead of the workers' comp process through that system, because the employer may say, hey, just file through your short-term disability. Well, that precludes, if the year runs without filing the workers' comp case, then that would preclude their entitlement to any workers' comp benefits. And the workers' comp benefits are there are a lot of benefits, and there can be a large recovery depending on the value and as well as the injuries, significant severity of the injuries. So yeah, they never want to rely on the insurance company to take care of the injured worker. I know a lot of times I see that they say, well, the insurance company's paying my benefits and they're paying for my medical care. But there's always a hiccup that comes up. And
they're so nice.
Yeah.
They're so nice to me.
Exactly. But then then if you mention, well, I'm looking at an attorney, then they may change their tune. But I tell a lot of times my clients, what if that adjuster was in your position, don't you think they'd be talking to an attorney? And they'd be like, yeah, okay, well, it might behoove you to talk to us and then let us help you, because again, there's no risk. You don't pay us anything. It's contingency based, and this is, again, we've handled over 5,000 workers' comp cases, so we know this system backwards and forwards. Folks come to us in all different types of injuries, from construction workers, Amazon employees, FedEx employees, to flight attendants, to professionals, to sport professionals. As long as you're on the job in any capacity, you're injured, whether it's no fault of your own, or hypothetically, if it was your fault for some reason or another, you can still get workers' comp benefits. So it's strict liability. So that's the standard. So there's no negligence standard such as in a personal injury type case.
And Nate, by talking to them yourself, you can end up helping them.
Correct.
By saying the wrong thing.
That's exactly right, Steve. Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times the insurance company will want to take a recorded statement shortly after the accident, and I tell my clients not to agree to that, and also let us kind of handle that and kind of hold your hand through that process, because they're always going to be trying to uncover information that's going to benefit them, to try to deny the claim. I mean, that's the reason they're doing the recorded statement, is they are investigating. I'm not disputing that. They're fact gathering, because maybe the employer hasn't gotten back with them and provided their information, or maybe there aren't witness statements to the accident itself. So they are fact gathering, but a lot of times they're going to ask questions that will be to their benefit, and because they're trying to find a way to deny the claim. They're trying to find whether the injured person had a pre-existing accident, or whether this accident could have happened outside of work, at home, or at church, or something like that. And therefore, they can find a way to deny it and not pay the benefits. And that's why it's always good to have us there, who we're experts. We know this, and we've been doing this for a long time. So, and in fact, all the attorneys in my office worked for the insurance companies for a couple of years. We all did that. We got the training, so we understand their tactics and tricks, and that only benefits our clients.
Well, Nate, I'm going to ask you a tough question. And I know it's a tough question because it's come up in our other markets under workers' compensation. And I don't know if it's just too early yet, but we have gotten a lot of people who contracted COVID at work. Do you have any test cases yet where workers' comp would cover that?
That's a great question, Steve. We've fielded a lot of those calls, and obviously we have to look at the severity, whether it's a long-term, long-haul COVID type scenario. The legislature in each state created statutes which accommodated folks who get COVID on the job and entitled them to benefits. In Georgia, unfortunately, there wasn't a statute created to protect the injured workers. So the causal connection, or establishing a causal connection with the contracting COVID with the job, is tenuous in Georgia. It's been very difficult to prove. Now, we did have kind of a test case that took place, where an unfortunate situation where a doctor who owned a medical practice in the Atlanta area, he passed away due to COVID. And there were 7 or 8 other employees, medical professionals in that facility, and staff who contracted COVID at the same time. So I feel like there definitely was a direct causal connection and relationship, but there was no direct supportive statute in Georgia that really protected the injured, even a death type situation, that allowed for getting benefits through COVID because of COVID. However, we did get this the deceased family members some benefits. We got them some benefits. We were able to take it to court and get a resolution, which was positive for our client. But a lot of times with COVID, thankfully, a lot of people do recover, and so the permanency of the injury and the disease and the condition is going to be really one of the big factors. And a lot of times they may try to establish, oh, well, this wasn't COVID, this was pneumonia, or this was something that was that was unrelated to COVID that is really causing their condition and their permanency and those kind of things, and therefore it's not work related. So it's unfortunate, and I wish we had a clearer avenue for recovery for COVID for the injured workers, but that's been a tough situation.
Well, I got to tell you, this is really a subject that's very dear to my heart. I've already been to my doctor, my pulmonologist, this morning because I did contract COVID while I was working. That we know and it's hard to prove, but it's pretty much because there was two people at work who already had COVID, and I got it there. And my pulmonologist said I am going to have breathing problems for the rest of my life because it does affect your lungs.
Right. No, that's a good point. I mean, and I think that each state's different. I think Florida, they did carve out a statute for essential workers or certain workers. But with any type of accident, if in workers' comp, what they're looking for is how long you're going to be out of work, and if you're able to work and perform your job duties regardless of the condition, then arguably you're not entitled to the income benefits, but you might be entitled to medical care. There are three avenues of recovery with workers' comp. If you're injured on the job and you're taken out of work due to the accident, the injured worker is entitled to a weekly workers' comp check. And each state has a different amount as to the maximum. In Georgia, it's $725 a week, as long as a workers' comp doctor has that injured worker out of work. You are also the injured worker is entitled to medical care, all medical treatment related to the work accident. And down the road, they are entitled to an impairment rating, and that's the loss of use of the body part due to the work accident. So, a lot of it all depends on what the doctors, the workers' comp doctors, the approved doctors, what their recommendations are, what their opinion is as to the disability, how long they believe the injured worker is going to be out of work, and how long and what future medical they're going to be entitled to. And at some point, there will be a settlement, and that's when the fee would be paid for the attorney services, and usually that's carved out. It's 25% of any type of settlement, and that is towards the end of the treatment and after the injured worker or claimant has gotten as good as they can, or they've reached maximum medical improvement. That's kind of the term that is used by the doctors. And I would say 95%, 98% of the workers' comp cases settle at some point during the case. At some point, sometimes the cases don't settle, but most of the time they do.
And you got to be patient too, right?
Oh yeah. That's probably one of the most difficult issues to deal with, is because the insurance company is going to delay things, drag things out, deny treatment, and a lot of times the injured worker, if they had health insurance. I had an interesting situation once where I had an injured worker who came to us, and she injured her shoulder on the job, and she said, well, I want to select this doctor. He's on the approved list, and I used him previously for a knee. knee injury, but that was through health insurance, and I got a knee surgery with him. I really like him, so I went to him, and I saw him, and he said, "Look, I know that you need surgery to your shoulder, but since this is workers' comp, it's going to be a totally different process. We're going to have to you're going to have to undergo physical therapy, MRIs, probably injections, and then the insurance company may or may not approve the surgery." But before she was, with her health insurance from the previous accident, which wasn't on the job, he just said, "Look, you need surgery. Let's go ahead and get it done next week." So that's just how the system is. And that's why it's good to have an attorney like us, experts, to kind of help guide them along the process. A lot of times there can be delayed reaching the insurance company, the adjusters, or the attorneys who represent the insurance company. We have good relationships with the insurance companies, and we are respected firms, so the insurance companies respond to us quickly, and we usually can get the results a lot faster and more efficient than doing it on your own.
We are getting a lot of text messages from people outside the Atlanta area. I just want to make this clear. You do handle cases in Georgia, not just Atlanta.
Correct, Steve. Yeah, we handle cases throughout the whole state, from Savannah to Brunswick to Albany, up to Dalton, Gainesville. We handle, you name it, anywhere in the state of Georgia, we'll take on a case.
Well, if you're watching on TV, we've been scrolling Nate's phone number, his office number. You can call and make an appointment. If you're listening on radio right now, Nate, give everybody your phone number.
Sure. Phone number is 770-922-3660. 770-922-3660. We're happy to help answer any questions. Phone call's free. It's a free consultation. We are experts. We have multiple experts who can answer the phone right now, answer your questions, direct you whichever way is best for you. That's one thing I would note is each case we look at what's best for our clients, potential clients. So we will, guide them the route that we think is best under the circumstances for them, in order for the outcome to be the best and most beneficial for them.
Well, I hate to do this to you. I told you it goes by fast, but we've got less than a minute. Why should I retain your firm?
That's a good question. We are experts in workers' comp. We've been doing this.
Board certified, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I would say in Georgia there isn't like a board certified per se, but we're experts. All of us are experts in workers' comp. We've handled over 5,000 workers' comp cases in Georgia. We know this system backwards and forwards. We used to work for the insurance companies for a couple of years. I feel like that gives us one up on a lot of attorneys. You name a situation, a case situation, we've handled that in one situation or another. We try cases, we go to court, we win cases. We have a very favorable reputation. You can check out our website. We have plenty of positive Google reviews, and we're more than happy to assist anyone who's injured on the job.
Well, Nate, I am so glad that we have your firm. All those people who've been writing us over the last 3 to 4 months, why don't you have a workers' comp attorney? And I'll bet you a lot of them learn new things today. And we will be getting into this more deeply. Nate will be back with us again next month. Nate, what a great job. Great first show. And we will see you again next month with more Ask the Experts.
Sounds great, Steve. Looking forward to it.
Same here.
All right.
That's Nate Arnsworth and his firm, which is, again, Workers' Comp, is one of the finest workers' comp firms in Georgia. We are so lucky to have him. And, the second show is always our great friends from Sunbelt Business Brokers. And we not only get them, but we get the head of the Atlantic division. I said Atlanta division, Doreen Martin. We are going to be today. We've got such a great show. If you own a business, you don't want to miss today's show because there's so many interesting things we're going to be talking today. We're going to be talking about selling a medical practice. Yeah, selling a medical practice. So if you want just the greatest information from one of the finest business brokers, not only just in the state of Georgia, but throughout the United States, I'm very, very well aware of Sunbelt Business Brokers. And we're going to, there she is.
How are you?
Hi, Doreen.
Thanks for the promotion there.
Yeah, we just had a new expert who does workers' comp law. And we are just, I love the way we break down your show. This week it's going to be on if you've got a medical facility, a medical practice. We're going to be talking about selling your practice. And I myself have so many questions for you today. But before we get started, as always, and we thank Sunbelt Business Brokers. Today's show is actually brought to you by Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta, who specializes in selling your business. I want you to contact them today. Set up an appointment. Call Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta at 770-936-9099. Gosh, with going to TV, Doreen, we're getting so many people who are finding our show. We have got so many new listeners. So I know we do this every week, but I'm going to ask you to do it again. Tell people about Sunbelt Business Brokers.
Okay, Sunbelt Atlanta. We have been in business here in Atlanta since 1998, representing sellers since 1998, founders and sellers of companies. We have 10 professionals in our firm, and we cover just about any industry. We've got we do a lot in technology. We do a lot in the medical space. We do a tremendous amount of work in business services. Distribution, manufacturing, across the board. And we represent companies as small as $250,000 in transaction value up to about $75 million.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
It takes more than a few days on a business worth more than 75 million, I take it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We've been doing it a long time. Collectively, our firm, we've got 90 years of experience between the deal makers here in the office, and we have closed over 900 transactions, pushing 1,000 here. You can see some of them on our website. We can't disclose. Sometimes we can't disclose them. It's kind of written in the end there, but you can see a lot of our closings on our website. They're what's known in the industry as tombstones. I've done this for 20 years. I've never had anybody be able to tell me why they're called tombstones, but they are. If you scroll over those, they'll flip, and on the other side, it will give you the case study. It'll tell you, how long it took from launch date to close close it, whether or not we got the full asking price, and how many LOIs we received on that business. So we've got pages and pages and pages of successful transactions that you can see there.
To show that, all we keep hearing is this downer news about the economy. And, it does. I see it does affect a lot of businesses. And I'm sure a lot of people want to sell their business because of the economy. Do you see that big a difference now than, say, 5, 6, 7 years ago? Somebody wanting to sell their business?
We are not seeing it yet. Honestly, the only place we're seeing it right now is in the media. And I know that a lot of people are feeling the impact of the economy. Inflation is killing people. But businesses, it's kind of it's interesting because businesses across most of our industries that we're representing right now, they're all saying they have not seen a slowdown. So maybe, maybe the doom and gloom's not going to come. I think we will see a slowdown. And some industries will be hit harder than others. We're not seeing it yet. Now, last week the Fed just ticked up the interest rate again.
Yes.
And we are looking for different ways to structure transactions, certainly, because interest rates will have an impact on that. But with the recession, and I've done this long enough now to have been through a couple, we can see an uptick in buyer activity as people get laid off and they decide that they're done with corporate America. They want to own a business for themselves. They'll take that 401k money, roll it into a small business. So small business sales can see an uptick. And then our lower middle market practice is there's some urgency there. And that's because private equity firms really are they're putting their investors' money to work, and usually that's a cycle. That's a 5 to 7 year cycle. And if their investors in that fund don't see their money working, they then have the opportunity to pull it out. And so private equity firms are building portfolios. They're building wealth for their clients. And if they aren't investing in businesses, they're not growing that portfolio. And when word of a recession starts to happen, sellers kind of start thinking, well, maybe it's not the right time to sell. So and then some industries are just hit hard and it's not a good time to sell. So there are fewer companies on the market to acquire. But there's a tremendous amount of dry powder out there sitting in these private equity firms that needs to be deployed. So there are fewer fish in the pool that they're fishing from. So
I got to compliment you, Doreen, that you do so much behind the scene work that people don't even see, and you haven't even made your first dime yet. So I want to know, how do you determine, first of all, the value of a medical practice?
With a medical practice, different specialties can be valued differently, but they're like other businesses where it's going to be a multiple of their net income, and it can be anywhere from a 2 multiple to a 3.5, depending on the size of the practice. There's always a size premium in there. Is it a multi-location practice with multiple physicians that are all co-owners in it? Is it a single practitioner? Is it a specialty? Is it a dermatologist or podiatrist? That will impact the multiple. There's a higher multiple than a general practitioner. We've sold a few medical practices here now, and the big thing that can really impact value is books and records. You have to have very clean financials, and most doctors do, because they don't like to do that stuff themselves, and so they have CPAs and things that do that for them. But electronic records, a lot of physicians that are waiting until retirement age to exit out don't have patient records electronically, and that in this day and age is something you really want to do. So when we take a medical practice to market, before we do that, we'll sit down with them and we'll kind of go through the entire practice and what that looks like. And if you are not electronic yet, if you're not digital yet, we really encourage you to, get your records in order and digitally. And there are companies out there that can come in and do that relatively quickly and without a lot of added stress to your practice, and relatively inexpensive as compared to what it can do to the value of your business. It's worth spending that money and doing it before we go to market.
Once the valuations in the medical industry, what are you seeing? What are you going to expect that's going to change, if there are any changes over the next 2 years? Will it change much?
That is kind of a crystal ball question. I don't think so, unless there's something that really happens, with regulations or something like that. But I don't see that changing. But another thing that can impact value too is, do you have multiple revenue streams, or can you have multiple revenue streams? Are you making money, on ancillary services? Maybe that is product lines for dermatologists or supplements, or Medicaid is now covering remote patient monitoring. Are you offering remote patient monitoring? There are companies out there that do remote patient monitoring, and that can be, that's software driven a lot of times, and so that can be a pretty solid, strong recurring revenue stream for a medical practice that is really completely hands off. They're prescribing the remote monitoring device, and they're paying for that device once, and it goes home with the patient. The doctor's able to really see, is this patient compliant with their medicines? Is this patient doing what they're supposed to do? So that can really help the physician. And then on the other side, after that initial purchase of that monitoring device, their Medicaid is paying them. I think Medicaid right now is paying like $106 a
Wow.
Medicaid patient, and a big portion of that is going to go to the physician. So are there ancillary revenue streams, especially recurring ones, that you can bring into your medical practice? That's highly valuable when you're interested in selling.
My brother was an internist in Dallas, and one day he just said, "You know what? I'm gonna get out of." He said, "I don't want to be a doctor anymore because they keep changing the rules on us, and they don't allow us to practice the way we used to be able to practice. And I'm going to become a hospital administrator." And I got to tell you, he tried to sell his business to his buddies first.
Yeah.
In Dallas, but he ended up getting a business broker, and he said it was the best thing he could ever do because it was tying his hands, people calling his office, the tire kickers, like I say. But that's why a company like yours is so important to a physician, because you know how to turn every stone over and find the right buyer.
Yeah. And we will help you prepare your practice for sale too. And that is the route that a lot of physicians go, is they've got co-owners in these practices that they try to sell to first, and that can be complex. That is one of the things you really want to do as early as possible. If you do not have a buy-sell agreement, if you are a multi-location practice with multiple physicians that are co-owners in that practice. A lot of times we see that the co-owners kind of have equal shares, equal value in the business, and own proportionately the same. When you form that practice, you want to sit down then and come up with the terms of a buy-sell agreement. Practices have to be sold at fair market value because there are anti-kickback laws and anti-referral laws in Georgia and most parts of the country that go into play. So that part of it is easy. But if you are a multi-physician practice and there are 6 of you, what's going to happen when you decide to sell? What when one of the partners wants to sell, 3 of the partners want to sell, 3 of them don't? How is that going to be handled? Those are kind of things that can be worked out in the beginning. Some want to stay, some want to go, and then in that buy-sell agreement, I would really strongly recommend that I've seen one where it was written that all of the partners had to agree on when to sell. Well, to get 6 people to agree on when to sell at the same time, that's difficult, if not impossible. So you want to make sure that that's in there as a majority type of situation. And that's where you really want an attorney involved, because an attorney, if they had an attorney involved at that point, I think the attorney probably would have thrown a flag on the field and said, you don't want to have everybody that has to involve. You just want a majority. So those are things you can do and should do in the beginning. And multi-owner practices are highly saleable, and there could be 3 people that want to exit out, 3 that want to stay, 1 that wants to go off and break off as a solo practitioner, which can usually be done. In those cases, if you do have 1 or 2 people that want to split off and go solo, that can get a little complex with non-competition agreements. So, but we work through all that, and that's what we're here for. And we can assist you with all of that. And then, of course, there's keeping it confidential,
right?
And until you find the buyer, and then it's notifying the patients. We help with that because legally you do have to notify the patients with a letter or public announcement, and we help with all of that too, and when to do that and how to do it, and we work with the closing attorney on how that's going to be done, when it's going to be done. We always want it. The attorney will always want it done real early. We always want to make sure that we know it's going to go to the closing table before letters go out. So we all work together as a team to get that done.
Doreen, I don't see how you do this. About so many different types of businesses, and there's so many things that, just like we're talking now, you do a valuation on a business. You don't charge for that. And do you add these comments to these potential clients, like you should have this on a buy sell? And do you get into that at all when you do the valuation?
No, not too much. We will say, if they've got multiple partners and they don't have a buy sell, look, it's really important that you get some kind of a buy sell agreement in place. Okay. But and then we refer, we'll make a referral to an attorney, because we don't want to tell them what should be in the buy sell, other than, like I can talk to a situation like that and say, hey, you might want to talk to your attorney about making sure you have, you don't have to have 100% agreement or something like that. But we can, if you don't have electronic records in place, we will recommend, hey, get a company in there to get all of your patient records electronically, filed. You might want to, you definitely keep track of audits and issues with that. If there's not a buy-sell agreement, okay, before we go to market, let's get an attorney in here to put together a buy-sell agreement with, you and the other owners in the company. We can kind of refer and point in those directions, and then on what'll make it the most valuable. And then when we get there, that's when we go to market. But we do the opinion of value is one of the first steps in our process, and we do not charge for that. We are probably one of the only firms actually that doesn't charge any kind of upfront retainer fee at all. We sit on the same side of the table with you until the company sells. We're just very fortunate, and we're a large firm. We close a lot of transactions, and so we don't have to charge a retainer fee to be able to afford to prepare and take your company to market. So we sit on the same side of the table with you until the company sells, and that includes doing that opinion and value. We feel like we cannot know if we can help you until we get to see under the hood and look at the financials and look at the mix of sales and all that stuff. We can't know if we can help you until we do that opinion and value. And then you can't really know if you're ready to sell or if it's time to sell until you have that. So that is where we start.
We've just got a few minutes left. What types of buyers are looking for businesses in the medical space?
There's a lot of roll-up acquisitions going on right now from hospital systems that are rolling in practices. And then you've got larger groups that are rolling up practices, specialty practices in other states that want to expand their footprint and their geography are looking for practices. And then you've got medical students that are coming right out of college, and it's easy to bring them into a practice because they get 100% financing when they buy a practice. So lots and lots of buyers in the space. Lots of opportunity for you as the seller, because sometimes somebody would rather bring in a student recently out of college and transition a practice to them, especially a general practice. You see that, and then you have others that would rather roll into a larger organization. We see a lot of mergers. That is one thing. People always say, when's the best time to sell my business? And we always say, when you are ready to do something else, when you're getting burned out and you're just tired of what you do, because you don't want things to slip, when you're ready to retire, and when you're not under any duress. This is different with medical practice. It is one of the industries that we will say, definitely do not wait until you're ready to retire. Your practice is most valuable when you are, mid-career, because you are a lot of times, even in the multi-location, multi-physician practices, you guys are you are the practice. It's your personality. It's your, and you've got to transition those patients, and that can take some time. And so, your practice is most valuable when you're mid-career because of that reason. But then also, if you roll into a larger practice when you're mid-career, you're going to be able to get rid of some of the administration overhead. You're going to be able to get rid of definitely a lot of the overhead. You're going to have more resources. Larger practices can offer, more referrals than you could just bring in on your own. So when you sell your practice mid-career, you're taking a lot of the costs out of your practice. And so, your earning potential after that sale can actually go up, and you've got, another 10, 15 years to just kind of just make money as a physician and do what you love to do too.
Doreen, give everybody your phone number, and also we're having people ask for your website address.
It's 770-936 9099. And our website is Sunbelt, SUNBELT, Atlanta, ATLANTA.com.
Doreen, I love the way you explain everything. You don't take it for granted that these doctors, especially, are geniuses, and when it comes to business, they're going to understand everything you're saying. I love the way you explain it and you break it down. Doreen's going to be back with us again next week with more Ask the Experts. Doreen, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Doreen Morgan. What a great company that she runs with Sunbelt. And we're going to be back with you again next week with more Ask the Experts. Thanks for tuning in today. Tell your friends about the show. We always have legal, health, financial, and home improvement experts on our show in the Atlanta area. Everybody have a wonderful week. God bless you. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.